And we're back. Hello.
You're
I was looking.
you're
I was
sitting there.
looking for something.
You're sitting right there. Mm-hmm. You're sitting there.
I'm here, and so now that we're all here,
Yes. And finally, potatoes back.
I had a topic that I had a person that I heard about through some people, and I have some notes.
Oh, very
There's some
specific.
things I was listening. Yes, I have notes. All right, so the first thing is and it's all going to kind of lead into each other, but first of all, it all starts with psyops.
Okay.
Okay, and just for those of you who don't know what a psyop is,
What
right?
is a psyop?
Because there's so many. It's funny because I've been in conversations with people fairly recently where
Psychological opponent.
yes,
Operation.
where
I know
I
what you're
end up talking to them and I say something about a psyop and they're like, "What even is a psyop?"
Yeah. It's like
And-
TikTok is a psyop. This or that. You know, it's kind of.
Yeah,
Or
so,
the drones were a psyop.
So exactly, that's
Yeah.
a great example. So right now it says like, so if you just go type in, here's just a definition, a quick AI overview. Quote, a psyop stands for psychological operation, which refers to a military tactic where targeted information and messages are strategically disseminated to influence the opinions, motives, and behavior of a specific audience, often with the goal of achieving a desired military or political objective. Essentially, it's a form of psychological warfare aimed at manipulating people's perceptions through communication techniques.
I'd almost throw it underneath the broad umbrella of brainwashing, but not directly
Yeah.
brainwashing. But
Exactly.
that kind
Or
of,
it's
you know,
like well, it does end up like in a mass formation psychosis.
Yeah.
It's like kind of where it's like a consensus thing where like everybody once a certain amount of people go along with whatever the thing is.
it's not
even
crazy anymore.
Even if people are like, it's crazy, it's like I don't want to go against the grain, and so it's like one of those things where it's like, the tall grass gets cut. So
Yep.
just blend in, and so then it gets into like brainwashing, stuff like that. You're absolutely right.
And this is very much encouraged as I talk about it and bring it up. Any
brainwash
thoughts
your
you
friends.
have? Any thoughts you have?
Cool.
Go ahead and
Gotcha.
and spit them out. No, I was just
Cool.
meant what y'all are doing. This is great.
He's not going to be mad at us.
Focus on influence. The primary aim is to influence the target audience. The target audience is thinking and actions by delivering carefully crafted messages through various channels like propaganda, radio broadcasts, leaflets, or social media. Military applications, primarily used by military forces to gain an advantage in a conflict by swaying public opinion against an enemy, or bolstering support for friendly forces.
Yes.
Target audience analysis. Successful psyops require a deep understanding of the target population's culture, beliefs, and vulnerabilities to tailor messages effectively. Ethical concerns. Due to its potential for manipulation and misinformation,
That's exactly what it is.
psyops often raise ethical concerns regarding the use of such tactics.
Well, it's
So-
because
It's
you're
not something
trying
that you
to-
ever do openly.
Well, you're trying to subvert. You're trying to subvert people's free will.
Yeah.
And people's ability.
And
to,
you don't find out about a
to
psyop
think
until
clearly.
after, unless it's been leaked, until after the ramifications are irrelevant from knowing it, right? I mean,
Yeah.
otherwise
for
it's
the
done in
most
secret.
part. But then it's like, it's one of those things that it's like once you've. I feel like it's like once there's the initial crack in the veneer, like there's something that will allow you to see one while it's happening. And
Like
then-
Project Mockingbird happening, it's like, okay, we can be aware
And then
that
it's
there's
one of those
something
things
going.
that-
There's one going on, and
Something's
just being like,
trouble's afoot.
if I'm gonna rank what the most likely thing is that I'm seeing, even having that mindset
and
gives
it's
you some visibility. I think.
It's like the old saying of, fool me once, shame on you.
Yeah.
Fool me twice, shame on me. To where.
Well, that's kind of what
once
Mikey
you've
talks
been-
about. Everyone who thinks everything's a conspiracy theory, it's almost like that. Like, I don't want to
Yeah,
be fooled, so I'm going to think
exactly.
it's all a lie.
Yeah,
It's all-
well,
yes.
it's like you
Yes.
operate from that, but it's like, that's the thing about it too, is that, like we're getting to the point that we need new conspiracy theories because all my old ones came true already.
It's funny.
Okay, so
yeah.
so now moving along. So now that I've introduced you and giving you that quick to anybody who maybe possibly didn't know, I've given you that quick backstory to what a psyop is, because I'm sure people have heard,
PSY-OP.
not dash, but maybe is it a
Yeah,
dash?
no,
Maybe
it's-
not.
yeah,
PSY
It can go either
You're
way, I
right.
guess.
It's the same spelling.
Yeah.
You
But
spelled it
it's-
correctly.
Yeah, it's shorthand for psychological.
Yeah.
evaluation.
Exactly, which is a thing that a lot of people do not know. So
I thought that was cutting open the head.
So the next thing I want to talk about is the mammalia brain. Is this something either of you guys have heard about?
the
The
lizard brain
mammalian
type
brain,
stuff.
It's the lizard
Mammalian?
brain.
Yeah. So Matt, have you heard anything? So
I go to kind of
again. I have an overview here. You Google, like, do what you like. The mammalia brain. Would you?
A million.
Is
let's see.
That's the correct one.
Yeah. Let me see. You can. I think
Yeah,
This
so
is
it-
about the same. Yeah, you can go ahead and read what you'd like there. I have it here, but this is a group. This is a
Yeah,
group
but do you want
experiment.
to you can
No.
read yours first
No,
because
go
I
ahead
just
with
I
that.
use
That's
the internet.
Probably about the same thing.
So yeah, mammalian brain typically refers to part of the triune brain theory proposed by neuroscientist Paul MacLean. According to this model, the human brain evolved in 3 stages. Number 1, what Chris was saying, but I immediately thought reptilian brain.
Lizard brain.
So the brain stem and the basal ganglia controls basic survival functions like breathing, heart rate, fight or flight responses. Kind of sounds like stuff that's
Your
automatic.
basis-
The auto
yeah, your
auto
basis
responses.
function That if you were,
And then 2 is specifically the mammalian brain, what Mikey is referencing. So it's different from the reptilian brain, but like it's in the same kind of school of thought or theory. Responsible for emotions, memory, social interactions, bonding, and nurturing behaviors. Structures include the amygdala, which controls fear, emotion responses, aggression, the hippocampus, memory, spatial navigation, the hypothalamus, homeostasis, hormone regulation, drives hunger, thirst, sex.
that's like
Thalamus,
what is it, Maslow's
the hierarchy,
Maslow's
hierarchy.
of needs. or whatever it is.
Yeah, it's
it
probably
sounds like
stemmed from here, yeah.
The mammalian brain.
Then
That's
thalamus, the relay station for sensory information. And lastly, the cingulate cortex, emotional regulation, empathy, and social interactions. So it seems like that's very much tied to the amygdala. And number 3, don't we get to the third part?
Yeah,
It's just
absolutely.
one.
It's important.
The neocortex. So we had number 1, reptilian brain, 2, mammalian brain, 3, neocortex, which is the human brain, involved in higher order cognitive functions such as reasoning, language, abstract thinking, planning, and conscious awareness. So the importance of the mammalian brain, which is the second one we listed,
Yes.
allows
So then we're
mammals to
speaking of-
form complex social groups and emotional attachments. Plays a key role in emotional intelligence, empathy, and relationship building, vital for survival strategies beyond instinct alone, enabling learning from experiences. And lastly, there's a modern perspective. While the triune brain theory is widely used as a simplified model for understanding brain evolution and structure, modern neuroscience considers it somewhat outdated. Current research emphasizes that brain functions arise from interconnected networks rather than discrete, independently operating layers, AI. Still, the concept of the mammalian brain remains useful as a metaphor for emotional and social cognition in mammals, including humans.
So,
Interconnected networks, that's neural nets. That's
yeah, and
what
again,
has
it says
built.
the mammalian
all that
brain. What I have here is again this is interesting. It says structure. The mammalian brain is made up of many different types of neurons. The cerebral cortex is part of the brain that distinguishes mammals from other vertebrates.
Yes, yeah.
And then it says mammalian brain has a large portion of the cerebellum dedicated to supporting the cerebral cortex. Evolution. The mammalian brain can vary. The mammalian.
Should I move her? I don't know if that's.
Oh,
I don't know if
yeah,
that's too
no,
loud or not.
I thought that too.
I don't know.
You might want to pass her over to here if she, or you can just move her to the other side, flip her to where her snout's facing the other way.
Taylor, you can lay behind me.
Because then she might not snore if she's like, yeah, I was gonna say on a different. She got her. Yeah, there she goes.
I think she could snore no matter how she.
No,
is.
but I yeah.
Potato.
She's like, let me get behind you. She's like, but I like your lap. It's warm.
It's a wide back pug.
That is a wide back
she's looking
pug.
stocky.
It says the mammalian brain can vary in size by a factor of 100,000. Yeah, that's interesting.
Look at the big brains.
It
on
says again.
Brad.
Yeah, so yeah, you pretty much explain the important part, which was about the mammalian brain's controls the emotional responses to social interactions, such as feelings of acceptance, rejection, and pair bonding.
Pair bonding.
So there's that, right? So now you've been introduced to psyops. You've been introduced to
Mammalian
the
brain.
mammalian
Story
brain.
functions. Of
So now we're going to talk about something called the locus of control.
Ah.
Do you know what the locus of control is? Have
I
you
am
heard of
familiar
this?
with. Yes, I have.
Okay, so the locus of control is a person's belief about how much control they have over their life. It's a personality trait that can be internal or external. So, for example, in this Patrick Bet David podcast I listened to with Chase Hughes, who is you were familiar with. Who's done he's worked with the CIA or is like behavioral guy, can, look at people and watch video and be like, his body language
like
can
a
tell me he's lying.
Yeah, human lie detector.
Yeah.
type
Yeah.
stuff,
And so
but
he was talking, for an example, he was saying he gives people that are interviewing like CEOs and stuff that want to interview other people like higher ups for new positions.
Yeah.
He was saying a good test or a question they'll ask to be able to determine someone's locus of control is they'll just simply ask them, how does someone get a cold? And how would you, and so at that point he said that when you would ask someone how does someone get a cold, he said they're going to give you one of two responses. He said the one response is either going to be that, well, kids, there's a bunch of dirty, grimy little kids running around sniffling and touching stuff, and then there's other people who get sick and they go out in public and they're careless and then they get sick and then they
Some
pass
people
it.
think that
And
the,
then
wet,
the
the
other
cold
one,
temperature turns them sick.
And then the other side of it is the group of people that say, well, how does someone catch a cold? And their response is, well, could be lack of sleep. I wasn't eating right.
Yeah.
I didn't take care of myself. It's my fault, or it's
Gotcha.
other fault. It's somebody else's fault. It's something else.
My
Somebody
diet's
else
been
did this.
shit, my sleep schedule's been
Yeah,
shit,
or-
I'm not eating,
Yeah,
not taking my vitamins.
exactly. And so,
Interesting.
and I have the locus of, I have more about it, but as again,
I
the
feel like
group-
there's got to be a better question they could ask. At least this, because I
Well,
know
no,
I could. I
no,
could
it's a
answer
good
that
way.
certain
It's the
way.
same
No, it is a high
hypothetical as like,
level.
what'd you have for what? How, like what you say?
where they find out the question, how would you feel if you didn't have breakfast today?
Yeah. Sorry, but
How
what you're
would
saying,
you-
Mikey?
How would you feel?
We can
if
keep
you
going.
didn't- How would you feel if you didn't have breakfast today, though? Is like one of those questions.
Yeah, they
where
ask you the
ask.
question. It's like,
And so people would be like,
why don't I?
I had breakfast today. I have breakfast every day.
They
It's
can't
like,
embrace like the
they can't em-
hypothetical stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Or
Gotcha,
they're not
interesting.
able to engage, so it's like it's completely foreign to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
But with
interesting.
this one, with the locus of control, it's like, to me, it makes sense. The question makes sense because it's a very basic way of figuring out how someone looks at things. It's like
Yeah.
they look
Blame
at
the
things
world
as,
around them
is
or
it the
do
world, is it their environment and stuff around them, or do they look at stuff initially first of like, what do my actions?
Are they victims
what
of
did my
reality, or do
actions-
they actually have like agency to change what their circumstances?
Yes.
What
potential-
control do I have?
Exactly.
Over this situation?
And what maybe could I have done to have prevented it getting to this place?
Yeah.
And so, do you want to talk about the locus of control?
Yeah,
'Cause
so I can just
go
read
ahead.
these two quick things I pulled
Yeah,
up.
go ahead.
I used Grok AI, that's like to mix
Yep.
it up. So it kind of breaks them down into two. So the internal locus of control is a person you believe your actions, decisions, and efforts directly influence what happens to you. People with a strong internal locus tend to be proactive, confident, and take responsibility for their outcomes. Example, I got a promotion because I worked hard. And the other type of person is an external locus of control mindset. You think external factors like luck, fate, other people, or like, you talked about that example, the cold question, that makes sense, determine your life's outcomes more than your own efforts. People with this tendency might feel less agency and blame circumstances. Example, I didn't get the job because the system's rigged.
Well, and that's kind of the purpose of asking the question in that way. It was like if I was to ask you a question like a more directed question, you
Yeah.
would be more on guard and want to give me a more political answer. So that's kind of why he was saying where it's like the question that, you know, how would you feel if you didn't have breakfast yesterday, is a simple way to judge whether or not somebody's able to embrace hypothetical on a question that's just totally going to put them off guard. And it's the same thing with the locus of control. A way to figure out what someone's locus of control is to ask them a simple question like, hey, you got sick. What do you think caused it? And they're not on guard. They're not thinking like, oh, I'm being tested right now. So they're
Yeah.
going to give you a genuine answer, and it gives you an insight basically into, is that
it's like a Rorschach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a Rorschach
Whereas
in a way
if you asked
because it's just there. Yeah, it's
If
the
you ask
Rorschach is
something
just
more
what does this
directed,
look
they'd
like,
be
and you're
on
like, oh,
guard.
that looks like an owl, and it's like, okay, cool, and you put it off to the side, and it's like, then at that point you then go look at your thing and you figure out, okay, if they saw it as an owl, this is where they're at emotionally.
And so,
Same
Yeah.
as
like
you know,
where you were saying, where it was like, I feel like there's got to be a better question they could ask. I feel like that's the reason they ask that question.
Yeah.
is because it's something
Well,
that
It's a
somebody
cat-
isn't gonna
cats
be on
is
guard
enough-
for, but
Yeah.
it will give you insight into.
That makes sense.
but what else did you research into?
Yeah, well, so 'cause I was reading what it says here, because it was so the connection to the actual physical brain. So it's saying that the locus of control isn't directly tied to a single region, but it relates to the limbic system and the prefrontal cortex. For instance, an internal locus might involve stronger prefrontal cortex activity as it's linked to planning and self-discipline, where an external locus could tie into heightened amygdala responses, where fear and helplessness kick in under stress. So it says that research shows that trait influences behavior, mental health, and even physical well-being. So I was reading that, but as soon as it kind of tied it to and it's not like definitive, like specifically, but it said, okay, like prefrontal cortex activity or the amygdala. So these are specific identifiable. I was just almost thinking of like different brain muscles.
yeah,
So I was wondering, the initial impression I get is that whether someone has the internal or external locus mindset could initially just be biologically and genetically determined. That they are literally born with DNA that made them more likely to be one way than the other.
yeah, potentially.
Well, that's what I
good.
so that's what I asked. So it said, is locus of control dictated by biology?
biology,
It's
yeah.
a great question. Whether locus of control is dictated by biology is a classic nature versus nurture debate. The answer is, and it's a mix of both. So it's interesting. So it says there's some studies like genetics on twins that suggest personality traits linked to locus of control have a heritable component. Estimates vary, but roughly 30 to 50% of personality variants, including tendencies toward internal or external control, can be tied to genetics. So that's like some people are literally. It's not saying that they can't get out of that mindset, but you can be born predisposed towards that
Well,
mindset.
it's
Yeah.
like a factory set.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, through
Which I find that interesting to know.
Yeah.
It makes sense because I think every personality trait's genetic. It's just crazy when you
Yeah.
think about a specific trait like this.
Yeah.
Something about your perspective of your life and events and circumstances that's so like existential
Yeah.
to being tied potentially, to something
Absolutely.
that you're just born into, which makes sense. It's just
Almost
interesting.
like that 80s TV
So
sitcom nailed it. There's different strokes
For different
move the world.
so now my last what I'll move on to from here
Shout out Mr. Drummond.
will be and this is something again I have stuff pulled up on him, but you can go ahead and run him. I encourage you to run it through what you have, because this is just simply going to be. I'll give his basic Wikipedia, and we can go from there. But I wanted to talk about
Jeffrey
all of
Epstein.
these. I wanted to talk about all of these things in that specific order, because introduce you to the PSYOP, because now you know. So again, we'll go back to.
So recap.
What is it
we've
quickly
talked about so far?
Yeah,
as-
exactly. So number one, the first thing I brought up was PSYOP. Again, a psychological operation, which refers to a military tactic targeted at information and messages, or targeted information and messages are disseminated to influence the opinion, motives, and behaviors of a specific audience often with the goal of achieving a desired military or political objective. Essentially, it's a form of psychological warfare aimed at manipulating people's perception through communication techniques. So that's your basic understanding of what a psyop is, and then from there, mammalian brain. It's a complex organ that controls many of the functions of mammals, including thinking, learning, feeling, emotions. It also controls behavior, memory, and sensory
I
perception.
think so. Like the mammalian brain, I believe is like what they would call like the midbrain. I'm guessing.
Yeah, it
Would
was the
be like,
second
yeah,
one,
the
so
way,
that would
like,
that
yeah,
would make
the
sense.
way it is because that's what they talk about. Like when you hear guys talk about like doing shit when they were like younger, like being dumb or whatever. It was like
that was my lizard brain.
My prefrontal cortex hadn't fully developed yet. That's
Yes.
like one of those things where it's like
That
you'll hear
is
'em say
that is exactly
And so it is
like a line
like,
in movies and
where
jokes.
they'll-
Yeah,
So it's like it goes, obviously would develop from the spine forward or whatever, and so
Yeah.
it's like lizard brain, your midbrain, mammalian brain, and then the prefrontal cortex is like, beyond. So,
what about the medulla oblongata?
my mama said that
So-
alligator is angry because
I'm
And then
I'm
from
curious to
there-
get where we're going here.
So from there, we went to the locus of control. And the locus of control is a person's belief about how much control they have, over their own life. It's a personality trait that can be internal or external.
or do external factors.
Yeah, and again, it's a personality trait that can be internal or external, so it can manifest differently. And so that to say again, pretty much, you have a psyop, so then you wonder the thing once you've introduced somebody to a psyop, people are then going to be like, okay, well, how do I? Okay, but how do people fall for them, or what are some like examples, right, or something? You want to know. You think, okay, well, whatever. How does that? So the mammalian brain, and what I walked us through in that order is that like kind of examples of like giving you a way to understand how these things are possible. Psychological operations are playing on
them
exactly. They're playing on these
facts. They're so effective.
Exactly. And so then from there,
Science behind the psyop.
to give us a understanding of the from there to kind of bring it home to what I'm to somebody that can help us give us an understanding of psyops that we have all been victim of. By the man of, you may, or if you heard his name, raise your hand. A man by the name of Edward Louis Bernays.
Bernays sauce.
He has a steakhouse here in
Yeah.
Dallas, I believe. It's
November
Bernays.
22nd, 1891 to March 9th, 1995, was an American pioneer in the field of public relations and propaganda, and referred to in his obituary as, quote, the father of public relations. While credited with advancing the profession of public relations, his techniques have been criticized for manipulating public opinion, often in ways that undermined individual autonomy and democratic values. So this man is the reason that we eat fucking bacon in the morning.
Oh yeah, no.
This is the dude. This is the reason.
He's not the one who's responsible for everyone using toothpaste, is he?
He could be.
No,
So here's
but
another
it's
thing.
like the
So
same
Lucky
idea.
Strike cigarettes, for instance.
Mad Men, that was a big thing on Mad Men.
So Lucky Strike cigarettes, for instance, was unpopular. They needed to drive the brand. The brand was a green box, and green was apparently not like a popular color or something, and it was going to cost them too much to rebrand the box, or to recolor the box. It cost them too much money.
Okay.
So this dude Edward Bernays pretty much came up with the idea or whatnot that, hey, what you do is we'll run a thing where we create an event where dress all these women in this green shit or whatever, like make them wear green. They did this ball. They did a green ball and had all these high flutens people in society wear that same shade of green. So then now all of a sudden that shade of green that we didn't used to think was appealing was now
correlate it with high
sexy
society.
and cool.
That's how the biscuit became popular. I mean,
Exactly.
They really there's no they.
So the
That's
majority
how
of your
it was.
music industry and the majority of
Yeah.
your entertainment and is shit like this is playing
It's being
on these.
shoved down
and
your
these are
throat
the people,
and changing the way you think.
and this is the person like this is the dude who like. So go ahead and read what you found on him if you want. I can read what else I have
Well,
on
like
him.
here's I'll read a couple. So one 1929, Torches of Freedom. To increase cigarette sales among women, Bernays linked smoking to female liberation and independence. He framed cigarettes as torches of freedom and staged public events where women smoked cigarettes during the Easter Sunday parade. This campaign shifted the external social perception of women smoking, making it socially acceptable and even desirable. One Chris was saying breakfast and
No, it was
bacon.
Mikey
Mikey.
who said it.
So do you want to read this or do you want me to
No,
read it?
you read it.
All right, to boost bacon sales for a pork company, Bernays surveyed doctors about the healthiness of a quote-unquote heavy breakfast. When doctors who were likely subtly influenced or selected supported the idea of a substantial breakfast, Bernays publicized these as quote-unquote scientific findings. This campaign linked bacon to health and a quote-unquote good breakfast, influencing people's external perception of what a healthy breakfast should be, and thus driving bacon consumption. People felt they were making a healthy choice guided by expert advice. Well, the funny thing about that is, I think, honestly, it's come back around at least to where it's not carbs, so what even bacon is actually a healthy choice, but I think it's like,
Well, no, but
not
it
with that
was-
mindset of thinking.
But it was one of those things too that it was like it went contrary to
Yes.
the science of that
Prior to the time,
Yeah,
it was
that-
just
it
it
was
was
like
a
bacon
light
is fat and
breakfast. You want a
unhealthy,
light
yeah.
breakfast was the thing up
you know,
until that
they
point.
They knew that.
That's
like,
interesting
what it
because
is that we
you always heard like you used to have a big breakfast, you
Well, and
know,
it's-
growing
it's
up.
like-
Yeah.
It sounds
it's
like he's-
the thing.
he did
but
it.
it's like eggs, where
Mm-hmm.
like I can remember back in like the 80s and 90s, like growing
So,
up,
right-
we talked about, you know,
Go ahead.
like that stuff where it was like 1 minute eggs were bad for you. Oh, they're high in cholesterol. You shouldn't have eggs. You shouldn't have, this and that, whatever. And then it's like, and then come to find out that like, oh, you do need this, or you do, just like that with the bacon, where it was like at the time, there was no scientific findings being like, oh,
Yeah,
whatever.
it was
Just
they
like
literally
eat
changed
bacon
public
and
opinion.
Science,
They literally did.
Science, and then the science caught up, but at the time,
But so
they
we're not
just changed
helpless
it.
though. Right?
Ask it about the Lucky Strike cigarettes with Edward Bernays involving him.
Yeah, it was very top. It said.
No, this is its thinking,
Oh, I got you.
so I can see its thought process.
Oh, that's
The
cool.
way it was like,
Yeah,
That's cool.
yeah. See, so it knows what we're conversation's about.
Yeah.
So it just it's,
No, that's neat.
it's nuts.
Yeah.
Yes, Lucky Strike cigarettes provide another excellent and very visually striking example of Edward Bernays' work and how it relates to the concept of external locus of control through the manipulation of public perception and desire. Specifically, you're likely thinking of the Lucky Strike Green campaign. That's what you were just talking about there, huh, Mikey?
Yeah.
The 20s. It's a classic example of his engineering of consent.
Yep.
That's a solid terminology, engineering of consent.
Yeah, because then keep going. Yeah.
And how he can influence consumer behavior by shaping external cultural trends and perceptions. Here's the breakdown of what happened. So the problem, unfashionable green packaging. The packaging was green. Yeah, it was their signature color. That green was considered unfashionable for women's clothing at the time. Fashion dictated colors like beige, navy, and black. So green was dowdy or unlucky by many. I think it's being clever.
No, green. And
No,
it's
but
funny
the
too
fact that it's
because,
saying unlucky, it's
well,
Lucky
no.
Strike.
Well,
I think it's
cars,
it's just they
cars
were
and
literally
motorcycles
lucky.
and stuff like that, where they talk about painting them green, where it's like there's a superstition around painting motorcycles green.
about it being unlucky.
About green being unlucky.
Interesting.
like,
Crazy.
For motorcycle code, where it's like
That's
if you
how-
look
that-
into stuff, I'm not sure so much about cars.
No, but
I
it
know
seems
it's
like it was
something
broad.
about motorcycles
It probably was
that
broad
there's
reaching.
yeah,
Interesting.
That's funny.
Yeah.
So this was a problem for the market share, especially among women. So I think everything else kind of goes with what you said.
Yeah, and so there was something I wanted to say. It brought up tell about the green ball. Tell them about the
Yeah.
green ball. Tell them.
So there was a green ball. It was a fashion event. So Bernays organized a lavish green ball in New York City where he persuaded prominent socialites and fashion leaders to attend and wear green gowns. The event was heavily publicized, associating green with glamour, sophistication, and high society.
And what year was this?
This is the late 20s.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because it's like, what year did The Wizard of Oz come out? The Emerald City.
That's a
Oh,
good
that's
point.
Yeah.
40s, 40 something.
Or 30.
30 or 40?
Yeah.
Sounds,
20 years
it's got to
later.
be.
But yeah, that's funny.
Yeah. That could have been, down the line, green was still had popularity that's what
Whether they knew it or not.
Quite likely, yeah.
It was-
Ask it about his. Also tell involving him with public relations. I think that's what the thing they considered him because this is interesting why he even called it public relations. I think. Yeah.
You need to put his name
Yeah,
in it
so you're right to bring up PR after discussing that with Bernays. That's what they. This is so funny. Public relations is not just relevant; it's the very field that he essentially pioneered and shaped into what it is today. Understanding PR is crucial to understanding how external forces influence our perceptions, beliefs, and behaviors, and consequently our locus of control. So, we want to break down a PR, Mikey. What's PR?
No. Ask it. Why did he call it PR?
Okay. Let me just make sure it's.
Or why? Yeah. Why did he call it? Yeah. Why did he call it public relations? Or
Keep going because it just said the what right above that. So
Aye.
it may be.
I guess I'll just do
which
it.
already have.
Why named PR? Why? Potato.
dude,
Full
potato. She needs to breathe right.
I mean, here's the saying: public indicating target audience, affair relations, nature of the work.
Or why did he?
Why did Bernays call it?
Why
that?
did he? Yeah. Why did he call it that specifically?
Yeah, because it was either that or. Yeah, I think that's what it. I was gonna say if it's not this, there's something else I'm thinking of that
He
he had.
says he didn't invent the term himself, but he played a crucial role in professionalizing the field and solidifying public relations.
Early PR, that was it. Maybe early PR was often associated with propaganda. Bernays saw it. Yeah, public relations sounded more neutral, objective, and professional.
Yeah. Then
Yeah.
propaganda.
Yeah.
Which is basically what
It's
it
the
was.
same.
It's
It's the fucking
sugarcoating
same
it.
thing.
Well,
It's
yeah.
sugarcoating the word
so it's
propaganda,
like,
basically.
Okay, yeah. So it's basically the shorthand PR was generally understood to mean propaganda or
Yeah, so
or you
early
said
PR was
press
often
agent-
associated with these things.
press
Yeah.
argentry. And so
Press
they tried
agentry.
to get away from, where it's, just being like,
So basically, before
They're-
the term PR existed, everything was propaganda or press
Propaganda.
agentry.
Yes,
PR,
exactly.
Yeah, PR was
And they came up with a new word for the
PR
stuff.
had a negative
Yeah,
connotation.
because again, it says right here on his Wikipedia, if you're looking it up,
I think
it
it's
says-
saying early PR, just referring to PR as we know it today.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think PR was a term then, but
No,
these
but
were the only
either
things
way, it
then,
was
and so they
like-
came up with this.
Yeah, because he's quoted as quote the father of public relations,
Yeah.
while credited with advancing the profession of public relations. His
Emphasize, or no, yeah.
yeah, no, 'cause that was it. No, because it was I was just gonna go into the same crap I read where it was
sounded more like a legitimate profession, like law or accounting,
Yeah, well, and it's like
than publicity agent or press agent, because that's really what. Yeah, it's a press agent.
So yeah,
it's-
but either way, I had again through listening to that one podcast, some of the stuff they talked about with the mammalian brain, and then he brought up locus of control, and stuff like that, and it's just interesting, like.
It's like all of
It
these
is.
things are
It-
how they manipulate you,
Yeah.
or how they create the facade that allows them to,
Yeah, and people want to talk
subtly
about
manipulate you, but then when you go to be like, you manipulated us, and it's like, no, I didn't. I just said this and this and this,
Yeah.
and it's like, No, but you were being intentionally deceptive. You know, it was like whether it's lies of omissions.
Dude,
Whatever.
no,
like,
it's
I
funny
never
you're saying that
said
because I was
that.
talking to my dad about this. That the concept of like lying and deception, like a lie is a form of deception, but a deception can involve the truth.
Well, there's
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, there's
Like
a
you can
direct
use
lie.
the absolute truth. You can use complete truth in a way that's intent is to convey a different thing. You know what I
there's
mean?
The
Yes.
direct lie, and then, like you said, like the lie of omission,
Yeah.
or the, Bill Gates wrote a fucking book called "How to Lie Through Statistics."
Yeah.
And it's like, and it's horrifying how often, if you pay attention, like you will see in everyday life the way
Now she's
they lie
returning.
through statistics.
Oh,
You
dude.
know, where it's like they'll say something where it's like, oh, it gives you a 20%.
Dude, in college when I took stats, I was like,
it
you
gives
can make
a
numbers say anything.
increased chance of this, and it's like, what are my chances without it? 98.9998,
Yeah, dude.
whatever. And
Stats
so
are
it's
the
like,
biggest
so
game
what is-
for marketing. It's
what is
insane.
20% of 0.00001%? It's like 0.00001%.
Onomatopoeia.
0.012.
I'm gonna pee.
And so it's like, oh, 20%. That's
Yeah,
a
dude.
big number. And so it's like, yeah, it's
Yeah.
So-
but I did want to make sure, just like when they asked, like running their stuff through each of them, ask. Grok is a positive one. It's kind of cool because one of the follow-up things was like, would you like to know more about how to shift for a more internal focus, which is I guess that's the goal, ideally, right?
yeah.
Yeah,
That's
for
like if you have one or
internal.
the other, the internal is the one where
Seems to
you
be
take
more
agency.
powerful and positive.
Yeah, it's an associated with success and just
More helpful.
So
Well, it's
this was
the-
cool because it has
it's
some
healthy and
things
helpful.
that you can
Well,
help
it's the Jordan
exercises.
Peterson,
Yeah.
like make your bed. You
It's like
can't change the world till
exercises.
you make your bed.
Exactly.
So I think this is it'd be helpful to at least mention some, if people feel like they're victims. Well, this is like some little things to help not be a victim. So one of the first ones is recognize choice points. So become aware of moments when you have options, even in difficult situations. So knowing that you have options, you're making the choice. That it could just be the lesser of two evils, but you're still making the
Quit
choice.
my job.
Practice attributional retraining. Deliberately attribute successes to your efforts rather than luck. So be proud of be proud of yourself. Be proud of
What you're saying is I am the best.
you're both the best. You
I'm
know.
a goddamn bulletproof.
I feel like
tiger.
this is something that we've kind of you've done, or we've talked about you doing this. Like when we were talking about in one of our recs one time, we talked about.
Did I lose your audio? Okay, now you're there. Sorry.
We talk about, patting yourself on the back.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Give yourself
Yeah.
credit. Yeah.
3, set achievable goals. Experiencing success in meeting goals, you set yourself up by reinforce your agency. And this is something that's like I try and say. It's like, yes, have big goals, but also give yourself low hanging fruit. Give yourself stuff you can finish.
Yeah.
Like Stephanie's like, oh, I need to clean the whole house, or I need to do all this. Like, target one thing at a time you can finish in one sitting, because if you know yourself and you're not you know what I mean? But people put themselves in these scenarios where it's like an impossible challenge, like John Wick, they give themselves an impossible task, which is, they should, but you can have tasks along the way that help you get there. Like, you're exercising the muscle. When you feel that success, that's like doing something to you, you know?
It's almost like what you talked about when you started digging into the men who stare at goats stuff.
McGonagall and all that?
Yeah, where he was talking about them teaching people how to shoot.
Oh, yes.
And they would be right here.
Yes.
And so they never know.
Yeah,
they
no,
never
it was,
know failure.
Gosh,
So it's like
yeah, it was a certain term,
they'd
but
put
they
it
would
right
have the
here.
target like
They'd
a
put
foot
the
away
target
from them, to
or-
where they
or
would
the
just
gun in contact with it. They'd pull the trigger.
it'd be
bang,
easy to
it'd
hit
go where
in
it
target
goes.
and bullseye, and then they would
move
just
it
gradually, slowly move it back, and they were shooting as good or
So
better
they
than like
never-
people have been training their whole life.
They never experienced
It's exactly
the
that.
failure, and so it's like, and
It's good connection.
And so
That's really good
you're
connection.
setting. It's like, I want every day for the next year, I want to wake up at 7 a.m. and do 100 push-ups, and it's like, Well,
Maybe just
that's a big fucking
do
goal.
one every day
How
for a
about-
week, then do two
how
every
about
day for a
tonight-
week.
How about tonight? Go to bed at midnight and just try to be up at
So-
7 a.m. tomorrow.
Yeah.
I wanted to
Set an
say one more
achievable goal.
question to maybe ask it before I
Yeah.
forget, or to just type out, or
Yeah, yeah.
just to get it on record.
Yeah.
For Grok or whatever, is ask like the mammalian brain being connected with like visual learning, because that was something. It's like that again in that podcast they were talking about with the guy. He said something about visual, like how he said
AI's talking shit to us.
he said
Seems you're circling back, fucking peasants.
Let me just see what this one says.
because he was saying something about visual. He was saying how, regardless of whatever this finds, I just didn't know. I'm trying to help jog my memory of where they were at. But more or less what he was saying is that he was like, he said what he tells people in regards for like if they're trying to, create something or do something, whatever. He was saying like, he said everybody talks about writing your notes, like making notes and writing things out. And he was like, that's good and all. He said, but like, he said that what I tell people is like, if you have a goal you want to achieve or whatever it is, he was saying that like pretty much write your goal out, or like as if you're like trying to explain it to your dog. Like, because
there
he
an
talked
example
about
you could say,
how,
like-
well, he talked about just mainly how, and that's about that.
your
From
goal.
there, he said that's about it. And then he just talked about, from there, he mentions about, vision boards, his storyboards. He was like, because he was more
Oh,
or
right,
less
for a
saying
dog.
it's
Like, it's so simple and
Yeah,
basic
how-
and
Yes.
concise to easy to
boiling
understand.
it-
Or for like a
boiling it
child.
down to
Exactly.
the root, to
Exactly.
the basest
Yeah.
ingredient.
and also
Like,
being in the being able to see that as well,
Yeah.
that playing on another level of like, so not just taking notes, but also like you said, boiling it down to that, like to the root of like, okay, this is what I need to do, and here it is. It's
Yeah.
like not just writing your stuff down, but and so it's interesting, like
Yeah.
yeah, making it as simple and that's.
I mean, you
kinda
saw why I
like-
put those Post-its all over my room?
yes,
They're still up there?
Well,
yes,
kinda
and
like,
they're right there next to you.
Well, or kind of like what's the the book about the laws of or the four. Oh my God, I can't think of the name of that book. It's the one that Tom Satterley had talked about that I've talked about before.
Oh.
It's like
I know,
the four intentions or the four
Let's see.
but either way, being impeccable with your word though is like
Yeah,
kind of what I correlate that back to is that it's like finding like boiling it down to the most simple like the most simple thing. How would you explain it to your dog?
yeah,
Yeah.
And like
That makes sense.
the universe not understanding things like don't, can't, and it's like, what is, how do you speak to yourself without, things like, I don't want to be this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
I can't be that.
like
Get
rewiring.
negatives out, right?
Yeah.
Part of
and
the whole, though, yeah.
You're
Yeah, because
you're
it was
really trying
also-
to break it down to the smallest part to where it's like, I want to be better.
Yeah,
you know?
let me read. I'll just read these last two things because as far as
Yeah,
things
go on.
people can do, we had mentioned the last one was
The Four Agreements is what it was, Pitts.
the Four Agreements.
That's the name of the book.
Yes, such a
Four
cool name,
Agreements.
dude.
Yeah, and it was don't take anything personally.
Yeah,
Be impeccable with your word. Always do your best. And what's the fucking? I always fuck the last one up.
be impeccable with your word. Come on, yeah, it was way up here. Huh?
But yeah, that was something that I remembered, like learning that concept from like reading like The Secret or like the early like Law of Attraction books.
Okay.
It was talking about like the universe or the internal dialogue. You want to take it back to the Bible where it talks about life and death being in the power of the tongue.
Yeah.
And it's like removing
Oh, I'm on the wrong one.
negative speech.
Okay, here we go. Yeah, so develop
dialogue.
skills is the other one. But yeah, no, I hear what you're saying, man.
I was filibustering while you.
Thank you. So building competence in various areas increases your actual control. So just practicing and being just learning how to do something, you know. And again, that's like we're just picking up playing an instrument or figuring out how to fix things. Something breaks that's simple, like it's
Being
simple
mindful-
skills. And the
being
last thing.
mindful of the moment.
And it's funny you say being because the last one it says mindfulness practices. These can help you notice automatic external attributions and consciously reconsider them. I'm just gonna ask it for some of the, but you can. I'm not gonna go to it, but I feel like because I think we've talked about mindfulness practices before, Mikey, and they're techniques that cultivate present moment awareness and attention. So core mindfulness practices, focused attention mediation or meditation, deliberately focusing attention on a single object. And dude, I posted something on our Twitter, and I think I posted it to our Instagram within the last month, where I was just talking about watching a movie. I'm like, challenge yourself to sit, turn everything else off, and actually just sit, put your phone away, and actually just watch the movie. Yeah. Literally, just focus on the movie. It sounds absurd because it's doing nothing, but you're doing nothing with your phone.
It's a lost art.
And I feel like that, literally sitting down and watching a movie or a show completely, fully, it's like an exercise that people need to do, which is like a crazy thing to say.
Well, or
the body scan.
Going out, like literally like going out to eat somewhere and being consciously aware that it's like, I'm going to put my phone in my pocket and I'm not going to check it until I, go to the bathroom or until we, but I'm going to be here in this moment and I'm not going to, and again, setting that short goal with that target right in front of you.
Yeah, not doing that is going to...
I'm not going to be on my phone for the rest of this year. Fuck that.
Yeah.
I'm going to go out and hang out with my friends. And I'm going to try to not pick up my phone until I go to the bathroom. And then you stack
funny thing about phone... And
the more you put it down, the less you...
Yeah. No, today I went to the gym and I got halfway there and I realized I forgot my phone here. Which is not a big deal, but it's interesting because I got pretty far from my house.
Before I
realized I didn't have my phone.
On my phone.
You get a little hiccup of anxiety.
But then I was like, whatever. And it was more just knowing Stephanie's probably messaged me.
Yeah, you're like,
I got home and Stephanie was
cool.
like, I was like, I tried to message him. Like, I didn't have my phone. She's like, okay. I was kind of starting to worry, but it's like, it was interesting.
So
I wasn't at the gym as long. I was more efficient because it takes me a lot longer there, but I didn't have my phone. I probably shaved off 10 minutes of like random things I did on my phone just while navigating a gym.
Messages between rest sessions.
Talking to me. I was gonna say one of the things like through what we were talking about, another deal I had heard of. Something we said made me think about it, and that's why I was on my phone this whole time, was to try and find what university I thought did a study on it, but about like staring into the mirror and doing talking to yourself positively, saying positive things.
Like
and while there wasn't necessarily a lot, and I could have just been mistaken, it might have just been one person's preference to look into the mirror and say it, but what it was it was saying it did understand what I was trying to refer to. And again, I do think that the staring into the mirror thing was more or less like a person's
that was the way
thing.
they did it, but
it was saying that yes, Harvard University has conducted research related to positive affirmations and self-empowerment. Although not necessarily invoking staring into the mirror, however, there are studies on self-affirmation theory,
like the tapes people
that have ties
and stuff.
that have ties to Harvard's work. So there's one significant study from Harvard researchers, particularly Lisa Legault, Legault, Legault.
That sounds good
to me.
Yeah, and others explored.
I'll take a Legault.
Explored. That's a good beer name.
Legault Blue.
Legault Blue. The idea of repeating positive affirmations can influence one's mindset, self-esteem, and stress responses. The affirmations can help. The affirmations can help people handle challenges by boosting their self of worth and self-confidence. While Harvard has contributed extensively to the understanding of self-affirmation, the specific quote mirror work involving staring into a mirror repeating words not directly linked to their studies. However, the general concept of using positive affirmations to improve psychological well-being is part of a broader field of research that includes Harvard's work.
So
yes.
this is why you asked
So-
me if I knew anyone selling a full-length mirror.
Yes.
Okay.
And now I'm gonna cancel that order that I
Well,
just
and
got.
That's
But-
why I thought it was going to reference like the plant study or whatever.
That was
like
something.
what-
I'll ask it. Yeah, but that is
but
something that
it's
I'd love to talk
where
about.
they
That's
talked
super
about
interesting.
The
having
non-negotiable stuff.
two-
Yeah,
well,
and
like
like
having
the
two
being
plants.
yelling and negative at the plant, like it
Yeah.
actually was killing it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
where
that was
they'll-
like part of all the crazy studies that are going on at the same time they're doing the remote viewing stuff.
Oh yeah, cool.
And
yeah.
so it's like, yeah, there definitely is. And again,
Oh yeah,
it's like
I remember that in the Sean Ryan interview with
Well, and
McGonagall.
it's neat though that because it does correlate back to like biblical stuff where it's like and going back to boiling stuff down to the root or to its
Like
simplest.
the power of
How
the
would you
spoken word.
How would you explain it to your dog?
The power
Life
of
and
spoken
life
word.
and death is in the power of the tongue.
Yeah, literally.
You know?
Like
And
James,
that's-
the book
how
of
would you-
James.
no, I know, and that's what I'm saying. Is like, how
yeah.
would you explain it to a dog? And it's like you would boil it down to its simplest form. And it's like you would tell somebody
Yeah.
life and death is in the power of the tongue. It's like, well, what the fuck's that mean? It was like the Bible verse that it talks about, I'll use simple things to confound the wise. Where it's like you can dig into that all you want, or you can just be like, oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
And the
And
thing
just
is, if you want
be
to dig
fucking
into it,
mindful.
I think you could probably start to try and get into
probably
breaking
could.
things
You
down into vibrations and sound waves and what the actual words
Or-
are in,
well, but
in the
that's
meaning behind the
the-
words, whatever frequency all that travels
that's
on,
the
actually
spectrum.
affecting your brain,
But that's like the spectrum, like the meme that I told you about, where you have the guy on one end
Yeah.
that's like the total fucking troglodyte that's like God is real just because he's like God's real.
Yeah,
and
and
then the intellectual on the other end that had dug all the way into it that's like God is real and I can explain. But they're both saying the same thing. One has done all the research, one just knows it intuitively, and it's the midwit in the middle that's
Yeah.
like actually is
The Zen character on
Yeah.
on the one end.
exactly. And yeah, no, like you're going back to your White Lotus thing. It's like
That's
it's,
going back to Mikey, because Mikey's
just
all about the Zen
Uncle-
character.
It's all just Uncle Buddy.
Uncle Baby Billy Buddy, whatever.
No,
There was something
yeah, what
else.
did you say?
There was something else that guy had said, and I can't exactly.
What's
I
the,
just
so
wanted
this
to.
is the guy that was being interviewed on that podcast?
Yes, Chase Hughes.
So
He
this
was,
wasn't the Joe Rogan podcast.
No,
No,
this was-
Because
not Joe.
We'll get to that. We'll get to Mr.
Okay, so was is
This
is
was-
is
yeah,
his
he
buddy
was just
though?
saying-
I don't
he
think
was
they probably
saying that,
buddies. I bet that they.
He was talking about something about words and how like we're not. It's more or less again like
You don't know always what they mean.
yeah,
Like,
but
hey,
he
what?
was saying more or less that like
Depends on what the definition of what.
again the I think the visual aspect of things and like the there was other like emotional aspects versus over the words that like it was interesting.
What
I wish I
I bet I
would've
could. I bet I could do
find
some
the
things.
transcript
So
or
there's
something?
he probably does stuff on YouTube, right?
Oh yeah,
it's
no,
on
he does.
Spotify
He's,
is where I
No,
listen.
but if I can
well,
get
no,
the
Chase,
links to the YouTube,
yeah, he's got his
'cause,
own
yeah.
YouTube where he breaks down.
So that means no, he's probably got the interview on there.
Yeah, it'd be cool if you could find that spot. I mean, I could.
What do you know what his name is?
Yeah,
the
well, I know
interview?
the interview. Yeah, it's
just look up his name.
no,
you'll
it's
pull
right
up
here.
his-
It's MK Ultra was real. Chase,
Chase
Hughes.
Hughes.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
Chase Hughes has his own.
And well, that one's 20 minutes.
Here's the full one.
Yeah,
Go. Oh, we'll see. Hopefully,
it's within the first 30
No,
minutes.
but let's see.
Try to get-
I know. I'm just letting you know that it's within the first 30 minutes of the show.
Let me show it AI the magic now.
Yeah,
We can ask any question from that YouTube video, and it'll give us the answer.
I love it. I absolutely love it
In that,
because it
Bonkers.
was beautiful what he meant about words
so
and how
do
it
you want me
ties
to,
About how-
First, I'll do summarize in bullet points, and then we'll see if it has there. It's the Patrick, Bet David, Jace Hughes talk.
dude. She's been serenading us with a solid like.
Here's
show
a summary
the
in
whole
bullet
time.
points of the PBD podcast talk with Jace Hughes. Let's see.
Novella, dude. Hang on, that was also something that was interesting. It was further down.
Incentives normalization of scopes.
Novelty.
Parenting, gaining control, psychopaths.
Yeah, that was it. Novelty. We should talk about that or look at that.
Novelty.
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 Sorry,
No, you're good. A novelty generates focus, leading to
Novelty.
hyper. No,
That's-
That
I like
sounds.
that word.
I prefer it my way.
No.
Novelty
Thank you,
generates focus.
but I prefer it my way.
What's
You know what they
novelty?
call me?
Because I'm used to novelty in a different context. Novelty generates a tremendous amount of focus. When something is new or unexpected,
Yeah.
it commands attention. Oh, novel, like something
Yeah.
new, like
Yeah,
the novel
like, oh,
coronavirus,
that's
the
cool.
very
Yeah,
first time,
exactly.
like the
Or-
first instance,
Well,
novelty
and that's
in
what
that
you're
sense.
saying, where it's like something you've just never seen before.
Yes.
You just stand there and look at it like, would you?
So
look
put
at
yourself
that?
in new situations, or like get yourself out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So then go back. That wasn't it though. Again, I'm trying to look at what he was
Did he
saying
body
about
language?
words. No. Hang on.
Proxies,
Lockdown.
PCP.
Visualizing. See what visualizing said, because I did find a lot of what he said about that was interesting.
It was like you just clicked the button.
Can you? I was gonna say, can you click on visualizing?
Yeah, because it
What was
says
it?
28. Yeah, that. Oh, let's skip to the exact. part.
I'm not sure.
We're
I haven't
always
actually
involved
done
in
Looks
it.
like
psyops.
you've got your, because it's one of the last
Whoa,
ones.
it's just saying
28.
28.
So it'd be right there at
28
the end.
minutes.
Look at your yellow bar. No, across the bottom of the screen. It was one of your last ones, so it'd be towards the very end.
Oh, this is it right here. I'm just.
That's what I was saying. Is
I'm guessing this is referencing the minute. But it goes.
Because again, it was
That
in the
can't be it.
first.
But no,
because
here,
they're
but Phil,
going-
look
no,
here, it
look,
gives me
they're going
text
through your
here.
timestamps. The 28th timestamp. Look at your timestamps on the bottom of the video.
So, oh, we have to
1, 2,
count?
3, 4, 5, 6. 28 is going to be down.
One of the
towards
last
end.
ones.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Ah, I
So,
see what you're saying.
I see. Yeah, I didn't even know.
Yeah, I didn't either, but
Chris is a smart
I think
guy.
that's what we talked about earlier. Composure is contagious.
so.
I think that's a very good thing.
Read on the side here.
What do you think about this? So everybody kind of finds out what all the business units are doing. Then it's one-on-one attention. Meeting with Manek, that's the one right there from
Shows all your
1985. Yeah, that's the one. How to
Yeah, I
prevent
can just
success
read
from
this
ruining
right
your
here.
marriage.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's such a
So,
So it'll probably be.
it's where
one
you're
of
going
these
the
next
rest of
two.
your life. It's not like this is Prozac stuff. Most people are visualizing things going bad and getting better at visualizing. Number one, and getting some training how to do that. So I think this might, like Olympic athletes has proven Formula One drivers.
No, this isn't necessarily what I thought. So again,
It's talking
can
about
you
visualizing doing it?
ask it what it said about humans and words, or like, yeah. Overvaluing language. That's what it. That's what he said.
There we go.
That's what it was.
So what's that?
Overvalue language. He argues that as a species, humans make the mistake of valuing language so much.
Yeah. So can you find the
can you
timestamp?
Expand on that. It would be 1 and 2. It looks like.
Yeah. If you want to either
Or
play that
what?
or
Maybe not.
Yeah, I mean that.
Yeah,
it
you
sa-
can
it
always
says
read it
the
if he
language.
says.
Hold on.
Or yeah, if it.
But
is
that's
it
what I
not-
thought was
Make it
interesting. I was talking about overvaluing language.
Well, it's.
Isn't it
Have you
ironic
guys
that we're on a
ever-
podcast talking about overvaluing language?
Have you guys
Yeah.
ever watched the show Dark?
Have y'all ever seen Dark? What you know about Mickle?
Overvalued
Because
language.
that.
Here
Yep,
it is.
There you go.
human beings tend to overvalue language.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I
because so
teach
much is
persuasion and influence
expressed.
for a
I
living.
charge
China.
$10 for this.
Hang on.
PSYOPs all the time. I train PSYOPs maybe once a year, and that's at Fort Bragg. So when it comes
Shout
down
out
to
Fort
let's just take a basic example of
named it.
sales, a sales team. Somebody says, "Well, I need a better script. I need a better thing for the phone. What do I say?" Or somebody, let's say the top sales guy at a company has this record number of sales. What does the management do? They're like, "Okay, what is he saying? Not who is he? It's what is he saying?" And that's the biggest mistake. It took me 15 years to learn this mistake that our species makes is we value language so much. And I've studied neuroscience for the past 7 years, and there is no structure in our brain designed for language. We have one for vision, for smell, for touch, motor control, all this other stuff. There's no hierarchical structure in our brain for language. It's because it's pretty new to us as a species, and our brains haven't changed in 200,000 years. But we think, what do I need to say? And when I get clients, the first thing that clients
That's
ask me for
interesting.
is, we need a better.
So, yeah,
I mean,
script.
it's-
that
Yeah,
was-
where it's like
It's
almost
interesting,
like
but I don't know. It doesn't. The concept of it doesn't hold much conversational weight for me personally. That right there.
I think it holds weight. I think if
Not
you
for
look
me
at it,
personally, I'm
yeah,
just
but
saying.
I think
Well, yeah,
it
because you
doesn't
just
if you're
said
looking at
language
it
don't
just
mean
in
shit.
when if you're looking at
What's
it.
that? Okay, explain. Like, what does that mean? Like, what's that mean? Like, what's the impact you get from it?
I think that it doesn't mean anything on its own, but whenever you consider it in the terms of other things he's talking about,
okay, in
I think
context
that it's-
of the whole
of
the conversation.
what he's saying. And again, it's
Gotcha.
like, I do think that it holds more weight than,
I'm like, wait, that's the wrong.
what do
term.
you, I mean, what's your,
Oh,
why
I guess
don't
my
you
thing
think
is like
that, because to me,
it's
he's
him
kind
saying
of,
there's these brain. There's not. We have all these brain functions we've identified that are directly linked to specific functions or emotional responses and whatnot. But there's not one directly associated with language, and he's saying that because it's relatively new, which I don't believe. I mean, because I'm a creationist, I believe we've had a form of language. I mean, when man talked to God at the beginning, I don't know what point we had language,
from the-
but I think we've had it long enough to where he's expecting something that's naturally not there.
Yeah, where he's saying that
Like it's like he
it's
thinks there would
still-
be
it's
there's going to
still
be a
in the
part
early
a million years from now
stages
there's going to
of-
be a part of the brain we associate with language. I think whatever it is already there. We just might not know exactly what that is. It might be the collection of all of them. I don't know.
or where they talk about
Yeah.
not being able to access the full
Yeah,
you know,
and that's just kind of my thought. But that's just me. That's
yeah, no, and for me, the reason that what he said right there kind of resonates is because it reminds me of stuff that I've heard with like Alan Watson things, and like that's the whole like purpose behind a lot of like poetry and Zen and stuff is saying what can't be said, and like how oftentimes language gets in the way. Think of how many misunderstandings you have with people because you misinterpret shit that somebody
Well, or-
says. So I get, for
I
me,
get
it's
that.
like I
but
kind of
then
get
I guess
like,
what if there was no communication at
perfect-
all?
no, and again, for me, while I understand that slightly, our conclusions about it are different, or what he's saying about it being new and not. It's like, to me, I still see his point about
Yeah.
language not.
I just need to watch the whole
of
thing.
regardless of you believing that what he like.
Yeah, if I
get
listen
your
to the whole
point,
thing, I think
'cause
the
I feel
context
like
will make
I
more
feel like
sense.
you could maybe potentially be getting hung up on that one part about
Because that's
him
all I've
saying,
seen. Yeah.
yeah, him saying that about how long language has been around, and I get what he
Yeah.
means, because it's like, think about it like this: like whenever I trained in Sistema, if you can for a second, like when I trained Sistema, they talked to us about how like there's so many things, like a lot of what we were doing in Sistema was being taught to me. They were saying that it's like we're not really trying to teach you anything, we're trying to help you remember something.
Okay.
Because it's like your body,
something.
your body like remembers,
it's an ancestral
like
memory.
if you get like a
genetic memory.
knife, like getting a knife next to your body, like you remember that, like like, okay, a pointed blade, like move
So
away
many
from it,
thousands-
like
so many
heat, get away
thousands of
from that.
Human beings have died from over.
Whereas,
however
like-
long,
Yeah,
that there's a
genetic memory.
a genuine instinct in the human body that when they feel a blade against their skin, they move in a way that they didn't even know they could.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas like with words, and it's like, so I kind of get what he means in a sense of how it's like, and also to us also working with, like you said, like we had that mammalian brain or whatever, that lizard type brain.
Well-
It's like working from that point of view a lot of times is how,
Like, how many times have you sent? How many times, like a perfect encapsulation of it falling short, I feel like, is like the amount of times you've sent a text message that, like, you meant it one way,
Oh yes.
yeah.
but
And people perceived it totally differently.
the,
That's
the
when
one thing
emojis
is you
actually have
cannot-
value.
Yes, because sending
You
emojis like
cannot convey
Yeah.
tone and inflection.
Yeah.
I could say the same thing in text messages that I could say in your face, and it's like, or even on the phone. It's like
And
on
that's
the
literally
phone,
why
I could
emojis
say
have
it, and
yes,
you would
tremendous
hear me
value.
So much value.
on
Yeah.
the phone. You would hear me convey the tone and inflection, but it's like if you were to see me in person. It's like being
Yeah.
able to visually see my face when I say the thing
And hear the way
hear
you say it,
the
yeah.
tone
Yeah.
and inflection. So it's like,
Oh, yeah,
in
dude.
text, the
I bet
words
there have
come
been so
across
many
one
even
way.
marriages that have fallen
Yeah.
apart over text messages that were
Well,
misinterpreted.
And I bet, and again, I think that my main thing is that I do think he's right about is regardless of maybe his analogy being poor or whatnot.
Yeah, no, I'm
I
not even
just-
say
I was
poor.
just
I'm
gonna
just
say-
talking about my thoughts.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
no, and I agree. Like I'm not, because I'm
Yeah.
not trying to.
I'm not, I'm not shitting on.
No, I
anything
know.
about it,
I
yeah.
understand that, and that's what I'm trying to say. I'm not trying to like convince you of anything otherwise. All I
idiot.
meant is that like I didn't want to, because you're probably right. I get that, but like I think the main point is I still think he's right. We overvalue language.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah,
whole
you
thing.
do.
That
It's
what were you told when you were a kid? Sticks and stones may break
words
my
may never hurt me.
bones. May break my bones, but words will never
We do,
hurt me.
and I tell you what, cancel culture is an example of that.
Yeah.
Exactly. You overvalue a word versus action. It's like, why should I give
or
a
you
fuck what
change
this
the
person
definition.
says in a
You
sense,
change
like
the definition.
versus
Or,
what they do.
or like you talking about the sales guy like example or something. Oh, this guy, what's he saying, right? To where honestly, you could probably interchange. That might have easily been a different sentence that he'd been using altogether.
Yeah.
But they just like see the success behind
They
these
need
words
a-
and immediately
well, they
these are the
want-
good words. These
They
are the
want
good
a
words to use.
formulaic. They want a formulaic, easily repeatable.
Yeah.
Like I can bring somebody in and manufacture.
Yeah.
50 fucking
And then
salespeople
statistics
just like
they
this
can
guy.
easily use to support that. You know.
And it's
Yeah.
like, oh, well, the guy that we formulated this off of made this many sales. You're coming in, you're using his same script. You can't get any sales. And it's like,
Yeah.
that's not how this works.
It's like stick to the script.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
You're just not what.
So it is. I agree. I agree with what he's saying. Though.
Yeah,
Which
no,
is
I know.
interesting. Yeah.
I know. It was just that, and that's why I recognize that. It's like I do agree that the way he said that, in a sense, because you're right. It's like you think about how long you've had language, right? And so it's like it is. We've had it for a very long time.
My
but-
takeaway is just him saying there's no base range is showing that it's maybe everything working together, like Chris said, parts of her brain, but there's stuff going on that we can't scientifically pinpoint down.
Yes.
And like the soul, you
And
know,
that's
where's
what-
the soul
and-
in the brain?
And that was interesting
You know?
too. He talked about early on, and that's why I can't recommend this one enough. This episode, at least the first 35 to 40 minutes of it are amazing
Yeah.
because he does talk about, like, he was saying whenever you hear about whistleblowers and stuff like that, like how you can tell if somebody's like maybe who he trusts and who he doesn't trust and why. And for instance, he was saying if like a person, for instance, is a whistleblower and they come out and they start talking about something, he said if there's questions that are asked that they say, well, I can't quite talk about that. His like, then that to me tells me that like there's things they've been coached on or something that like they're hiding
Yeah.
information away. It's like, why is there something you can't say? And then he also says that people that are overly confident that have definitives that I know this and I know that and this is that. And he said that one person is a good example of like, of not that is somebody who does believe like is coming from an honest, sincere point who's not
Yeah.
a psyop was that guy, Dr. Stephen Greer.
okay.
The dude who's done a bunch of like UFO
Yeah.
research and
Worked
stuff.
with Sean
Because
Ryan and
and the
stuff.
reason I thought it was interesting, he said that he doesn't believe that guy is like any kind of necessarily a psyop, because he was saying is like he talked about like he allows and understands like for ambiguity.
Yeah.
He admits
He's
that he's like,
open
I don't
to-
know that.
Yeah.
I don't
Embraces-
think
he
this might
embraces
not.
that he could be wrong.
Yeah, he's like,
That-
I don't know. This
if I'm
may
wrong,
not
explain it to
be
me.
how it is. Like but he thinks he's like, I think this is what it is, but
Yeah.
I don't.
Based
know.
on all my experience in
And
life.
so
that's
I
his
thought
point.
that's
he's being genuine.
yeah, and I thought that was interesting. Just again from his standpoint and from like his expertise, I find that type of information interesting. It's like
is.
just him saying that on the very surface. Again, he's like, when I hear a person that is very definite and acts like, oh, I know exactly what's going on, and there's no this is what the thing is.
you're
He
talking
was
about
like, that's
somebody-
more or less like a
Yeah.
Somebody, a guy that acts like he's got nothing to lose.
Yeah.
Where it's like, like all the
He's-
you think of every like undercover cop movie
Yeah.
and everything
He's full
you've
of
ever
shit.
seen, where it's like,
Yeah.
you know, everybody's
Yeah.
got something that they're, you know, and so a guy that acts reckless, that like, oh, I just don't give a shit. You know,
Yeah,
and
loose
it's
cannon.
Like, oh yeah, there's, you know, what's really
Yeah.
going on here.
And that's good
And
stuff,
so-
man.
And yeah, it says like Chase again. This guy that we're talking about with this, you know, where some of this stem from is Chase Hughes is the founder of CEO, and founder and CEO of Applied Behavior Research. He's a leading behavior expert and author of three number one best-selling books on persuasion, influence, and behavior profiling.
Okay.
He has his
so-
own YouTube channel too about like
Yeah.
body language. That's
And he
where,
has, like, a
that's where I
website.
first,
Okay.
like, heard about him was through like his body language stuff. But one of the things that he did that's what I was telling Mikey earlier when I heard him listening to it. I couldn't see him, so I wasn't sure, and I
Yeah,
didn't
if it was
know him
him.
by name. But I was like, oh, this sounds like this guy that, you know, I'd heard before. It turns
Yeah.
out it is the same guy. But it was just something that was neat that like he had said, and I told Mikey about it earlier, where he talks about, you know, like being good to yourself, you know, or whatever, you know, like positive, you know, like affirming yourself positively and stuff like that, like becoming friends with yourself.
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know? And he talked about how like one of the things
In the bathroom for at least
in-
5 minutes a day.
One of the things that he did was that he was like in the winter or whatever, say it's like the last time I wear a coat for the season. or
Yeah.
whatever. He was like, I may take that coat off and then stick $100 bill in the pocket of that coat. And then next
yourself a
winter,
little gift.
when I pull that coat
Yeah.
out of the closet and I pull that,
Do
you know, I
things
put it
that where
on,
your
and
future
it's
self will thank
but
you.
that you're, that
That's
you're
what I was
building,
doing. Like
you're
I said,
building
like my
a
future self is
positive-
gonna thank me for this.
You're building a positive relationship with yourself in that moment, that it's like, hey,
Yeah,
man,
that's pretty.
I did that for me, and you know,
I'm gonna do that for future me. I'm gonna
Yeah.
pay it
yeah,
forward.
and to where it's like you do, because it's like I know I'm the worst at that. It's like, yeah,
Yeah.
There ain't a fucking thing somebody can say to me that I haven't said to myself 100 times.
Yeah.
like a daily basis. Stupid fucking motherfucker.
Yeah.
And so stuff like that always like resonates with me, where it's like I'm always looking for ways to, you know, it's like, and I think he's the one too that said one of the things that has actually stuck with me and been applicable was, it's like, talk to yourself like you're 7. You talk to yourself like you're a kid. When you fuck up, he was like, how would you talk to a kid? You wouldn't be like, oh, you fucked that up. You'd be
Yeah,
like,
not
you'd be
negatively.
like, hey,
you-
buddy,
Yeah.
it's all good. Like that happens.
Like
You know,
you're
what-
you're raising yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he was like, talk to yourself.
Not so hard
like
on
you love
yourself.
yourself.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
And that's what he was saying. He was like, and that is something that.
Yeah, no,
and
that's
I
good.
didn't
That's really good
realize
advice.
it until
That's my
like,
recommendation
in
of the
this
week.
moment.
I-
But that's what he to piggyback off of what Matthew just piggybacked off of what I just said.
Little
But yeah,
teaser
no,
right
that's-
there.
Yeah, that is one of the things that he said that I took away more than anything. Is like, talk to yourself
Give
like,
yourself a gift, but
like you're
make it a
explaining
hidden gift.
No, explaining it, you know, like
One
you
that
were
you'll
to a
never
kid.
find.
Yeah.
Like, find the good in what you did.
Yeah.
You know, if you feel like people are taking advantage of you, it's like,
Well, I killed them.
don't have that, the external locus, whatever, where it's like, oh,
Yeah.
well, fuck that, I'm never fucking trusting somebody again. It's
Yeah.
Yeah.
like, okay,
Have
you
the
know,
internal.
the internal, and then like, hey, buddy, it's good that you did that. You know, it's good that you want to be good to people around you.
It's good you
Maybe in
want to
the
trust
future-
people. It's good.
Maybe
good
in the
that
future,
other people are, do
do
exist
this
you
or
can
look
trust.
for this, rather than being
Yeah.
like
Writing
fuck
them
that,
all
people
off.
hurt
Just
you,
because this
and-
happened, don't then change yourself
Yeah.
because that happened. It's like, yeah, it's like this happened, therefore I feel
No,
this
he's
way.
he's got all kinds of awesome.
But yeah,
Does that
so-
apply to women?
yes. Yeah.
Moving on.
I was gonna say we need before we
saying,
keep getting. I know we're getting
Women
close
don't
to
have
wrap.
an internal dialogue.
Yeah, before I
I know we're getting
because I
close
got
to
to
wrapping
show that
it
one
up.
guy.
Well, we need to spin the wheel.
Yes.
Spin this wheel.
All right, so this
I'm
is good
excited.
Talk. This is good stuff.
Thank you. I hope everybody enjoyed again. if you guys are interested in learning more about that whole propaganda thing and like where all of any of the psyop, if you were intrigued by psyops and mammalian brain and locus of control
techniques and tactics. And,
if all of that intrigued you, this guy, it all stems and starts with this guy, Edward Bernays, and he did write a book.
The Sauce Man.
Called
Here we
the
go.
Mothman.
1998.
Mothman prophecy.
Okay,
There's
hang
something
on.
in our sphere of existence.
I was going to say, hang on. He did write a book.
1998.
This guy, if all of this to wrap up what we've been talking about, he did write a book that is a lot of people have read. And
Chicken Soup for the Soul.
this guy, this isn't good, but it's just something that this is not something that I'm saying to, it's not a good thing, but it's a real fact that should shed light on how powerful what this guy created. Again, he's the reason that we just
And
started
you're talking
eating
about
bacon.
Who's
Edward
Bernays.
Bernays. Joseph Goebbels, had
Goebbels.
read this guy's literature and like pretty much taken his tactics and used those in Nazi Germany with the propaganda they disseminated to their people.
Well,
So it's like just take that into consideration when you're thinking of like it, just how powerful. Like this isn't just some goofy weird shit. Like
well, to your point,
It worked for
like
the Nazis.
Sun Tzu, where Sun Tzu talks about that to, know your enemy and know yourself. And so it's like, it's important to read things like that because how the opposition operates. And
Yeah.
so if
Know
you're
how you're being
aware
played.
of the way that they're going to attack you, so even if you have it's like it is important to read these things so that you can guard yourself against
yeah,
them,
if you want to
because-
if you want to rise above the normal basic left right ideology of okay, are you on the left or are you on the right? You want to just kind of figure out what the actual truth is because all of
Yeah.
us have our own value system that more or less align in a sense, and it's like we all pretty
Implicit
much want
bias.
everybody to live happily and do their own thing and be by themselves and whatever, but then it's like
Yeah.
you have these if you want to get out of the having that solid line that divides us between that, figuring out these things is important.
it's
And
it's
again,
important to see.
he wrote
Oh, yeah.
one of his most popular books he wrote was Propaganda, and on the cover of Propaganda it has I do find this is very interesting, it has the OK sign like this,
That's
Yeah.
and then it has the peace sign, and then thumbs up, and then the fist.
the
So
communist.
it's like thumbs up and
Oh,
then
yeah.
the fist. So it's either Propaganda by Edward Bernays.
Which
so
one
if
of
you're
these?
that's any of them.
That's all.
So see, that's the
It's like
cover
one
with
that Mikey
the
was seeing is the one with the
peace,
spider webs coming
thumbs
off of
up.
it. Yeah.
no, I
okay.
saw the other one.
Oh, okay. Oh, they were just stacked on top of each other on the left.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't see that.
You know, when
That was
again
the-
go back. Yeah, exactly. The one on the left was
Yeah, they're on the left.
Oh,
exactly.
okay. Yeah,
Okay.
it looks like it almost looked like sign language.
there.
Yeah.
You go.
Yeah.
So
Interesting.
this is the book that this guy wrote, and
Hey.
pretty much people have
You might also enjoy
Hey,
Second from the End.
yeah, behold a pale horse.
there we go.
So
Some light reading.
either way, just to kind of wrap that up, what we
Wow.
were talking about, and if any of that intrigued any of you.
Yeah, no, that was great.
I'm interested in the locus of control thing, learning more about that. And
Yeah, that's definitely. Yeah.
locus of control
It's
is
a- it's a
interesting
concept
because that's
I
what they're
haven't
playing
heard
on.
of before.
Yeah, right. Neither did
But
I.
it's-
And
yeah,
it seems important. It seems like one of the key ones that they play on.
Is one
Yeah,
of
it's
those
like
things
controlling
that-
your own destiny. It's like a big, broad, idea. It's like fate, determinism versus,
And they get us to a point
agency.
of just all
Yeah,
being
that's
like,
what.
fuck it, it's not our choice. I don't have any control.
Yeah.
Whatever. And that's
I mean,
what they've gotten.
It
the
comes down to
masses-
predestination. Destination comes
In the
under
mass, I
concept.
feel like the negative, like the mass effect of a lot of this, I feel like has been just
fatalism
people
or
feeling
determinism. It's like
yeah, people all feeling
Versus-
collectively feeling like, fuck it, what can I do? I mean,
Yeah.
we're all screwed.
yeah, exactly.